Many of us would love to go back to our younger days, when the cares that we had were very little, if we had any, and the sun shined down on us like we were the only things that mattered in the world. Well, I know I'd go back if I could, but only if I could take what I know with me. I had a great childhood. It was filled with love and the belief of two parents that I could do anything that I set my mind to. But not all kids had that. That alone was a stark lesson that sooner or later we'd all wind up learning. That not everything in life is what it appears to be. And that sometimes the things we think will bring us the most comfort can actually be the most dangerous to us, and dangerous to the ones we love the most. I've learned that. Like so many lessons in my life, I learned it the hard way. The story you're about to see should make that very clear.
Isn't it amazing? Cause so much fear. Teensy tiny little spider.
This is where I spent some time, at least after I got here. My story begins in Ohio. I don't think there's much to tell, but my mama would not agree with me. She thinks I have this little mean streak in me, but really, I just love to play. I can get very angry when someone makes fun of me. Ask Mama's husband. I was named after a girl in a scary movie about a demon, I think. Can you imagine that?
Reagan comes from a family, lived near Dayton, Ohio. She was purchased at a local thrift store there when Alice was a very young girl. They purchased her for Alice, hoping and praying that it would cheer her up a bit, because she was such a melancholy child, always upset and always sad. Alice had named her Reagan after her most favorite scary movie character. We all know which one that was, of course. She'd soon begin to tell everyone that she visited them while they were asleep. And when they would say, "When?" or "How did you do that? I didn't hear you," she'd say, "Oh, Well, I was in my doll. I used my doll as a portal. And once I'm inside, well, I can move so quietly that you'd never even know I was ever there. I could watch you sleep. I could watch you do anything I want to. And folks, did I mention that this was all happening while Alice lived at a home for special needs girls? She was staying really angry at this time in her life, and all of her family had thought it best that she get some professional help, especially after she'd done so much violent and downright mean things to her family as well. As much help as she could get, they'd hoped, because they had all grown to fear her and fear her episodes. The next morning, some of the patients had complained. A very small girl would poke at them with something really sharp, and then run and hide. Then whenever they went to go find her, see where she went, or who this girl may be, she wasn't anywhere to be found until they went back to their own bed. There would be Reagan the doll, lying in their bed, smiling evilly, with that malevolent grin and those snake eyes of hers. Then, when they would scream and hide their eyes, poof, she was gone. Little things like this began to happen more and more. It seemed almost every night now. And of course the patients were getting really upset. From the nurses and the patients to their parents, threatening to remove their own children from this place. So they had a meeting with Alice's mother and explained that she had to go. Scared and shocked from what she was told, they asked Alice about these little tricks that she was doing. She smiled and said, "I didn't do anything, Mother. I'd never be so mean." And then she smiled, an evil smile, and turned her head quickly, almost doll-like, over to the doctors and said something under her breath to them, something that no one could understand. "It's a flower badu," as her mother took her by the arm and led her to the car. She wondered, what was this that her daughter was even saying? That shocked her more than anything. As they took the 2-hour drive home then, Alice slept the entire way. Her mother worried about her, about the actions that she'd done. She worried about her in general, the horrible behavior. She thought to herself, "I'll do whatever I can to help her. I just want to get my daughter back. I don't want to be afraid of her anymore, of our own child." When they arrived home and they walked in, Alice went straight back to her room, giggling and holding Reagan. "I hope that you'll love it here with our family. We will have so much fun here." Little did her mother know, but fun was the last thing that's going to be happening there. Alice took Reagan all around the house, in the yard, outside, all around their property. Then she took her to her shed, where she used to hide when they would go and play hide and seek. It was a place that she'd always felt safe. She then told Reagan, "This will be our play shed, where we can go and play and talk and get away from everyone." Alice noticed her father's gun box was laying over on the middle table, where he'd more than likely been cleaning it and forgot about it again. He'd been working a lot lately, but she didn't bother with it. She was having a really seemingly good time, just being away from that mental facility and all those hateful nurses, doctors, and the patients. Now we can run free at night and do anything we want to, Reagan. Scaring whoever we want to. She remembered the old radio. She walked over and plugged it in, and it still turned on. She then grabbed up Reagan and began to dance. They danced and laughed until her mother told her it was bedtime. "But Mother, it's 9 p.m. Why do we need to go to bed?" She said to Alice, "I know that you must be tired and ready for bed, honey." "Well, guess what?" Alice said. "I'm not sleepy, bitch." "Well, Alice, I understand that you've been gone for 1.5 years now, and I know you're 12 years old, but you need to remember this. This is home, and I have taught you rules that you have to abide by to live here." Alice quickly said, "You're right, Mother. And you know something? We need to discuss those rules, because I have changed, and I am not a baby, and I am a different person now, and I get very upset when people start screwing with me." So stop telling us what to do. It's not going to turn out well for you if you don't. Alice was really mad. She said, I'm sure you're familiar with that old well out on the edge of the property, Mother. That's where you'll be if you don't leave me and Reagan alone. Don't threaten me, little girl, her mother said. I don't appreciate the way that you're talking to me. Now get in the house and get to the bed before that doll right there winds up in the well, and you in another facility. Alice walked in and went straight to her room. She climbed up into her bed, still upset with her mother. I'll fix her, she thought. And she ended up going to sleep. When she woke up, Reagan was standing near her, telling her, wake up, wake up. I want to run around and explore this place. Okay, I'm ready, Reagan. Soon after, Reagan was exploring, and she decided that she'd tiptoe into Alice's mother's room. She looked around all the rooms, everywhere she could. She tiptoed into Alice's mother's room. She walked around and looked through all of her things. She walked up to the bed and stood near her. She began to smile evilly again as she grabbed the letter opener that was lying nearby on the night table. She shoved it into her shoulder and giggled and ran. Alice's mother awoke and panicked. She began to scream with the pain. How can you do this? How? Oh my gosh, there's blood everywhere. Oh my, what have you done? She pulled the letter opener that was still stuck in the side of her arm out and cried out in pain. That's it. That's it. For this awful doll? Alice said, no, I am that doll, and you won't be touching her or me. She walked out the door and went straight to the shed. She walked in and locked the door. She put Reagan down on the floor. She turned on a dim light inside. Reagan asked her, do you want to play with the Ouija board to calm down? Okay, said Alice, as she pulled out the smallest little Ouija board she'd had in her bag. Her eyes seemed darker than usual, and Reagan's eyes appeared again to look like snake eyes. Oh, Ouija board, will someone come out and talk to me? Hey, is my friend Bogey in there tonight? You would like to talk to me, wouldn't you? Do you have any messages for us? It's just me and Reagan tonight. The planchette went from H to the letter E, R, E. Oh boy, so you're here with me? And Reagan, what should we do to have some real fun? The planchette went to G, U, N. It paused. Then it went to G, E, T. Get the gun? Okay. Alice got up and got her father's old gun. This old thing, it would barely shoot a pop can. What could I do with it? It wouldn't hurt a flea. But let me pull up my journal. Let's write some of this down that the Ouija board was saying. She wrote down everything that she'd received from the Ouija board. After writing it, she returned to the board. It quickly went to S-H-O-O-T. Shoot it? Sounds fun. Really couldn't hurt anything. Come on, Reagan. She'd taken the gun and tried to hold it up, but where it was so heavy, she could barely hold it with one hand. It was a heavy old thing. Reagan told her, go ahead and shoot at it. Shoot at it. Shoot at the door. Don't be a scaredy cat. She heard the door trying to open just then. It was her mother. You open this door right now, Alice. Alice pointed to the door with the gun. She said, leave or I'll shoot you through the door. Just then, her mom had looked through the side window. She could see that Alice had the gun in her hands all right. Oh, okay, Alice, I'm leaving. Shoot her and get her out of here. Get her out of our way, Reagan said. I am trying, okay? This gun is really heavy. She held the gun up with all of her strength. and managed to pull that trigger. But her hands just weren't strong enough. The gun was way too heavy. It kicked back, and it ended up shooting her own self, only an inch from her heart. You could hear Reagan giggling as Alice fell to the ground dead. 1 year later, the family contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in a few items that they had at that place. They explained to me that they needed everything to be completely private, so I agreed. So now we have Reagan here with us at 606 Paranormal. She's been with us now for 5 years, and you can always see her on our Haunted Doll Tour.
Dolls are only some of the items that Stacia maintains that are haunted. A small piano, pictures with attachments, and more are among the many things that 606 Paranormal maintain that are reportedly haunted or cursed items. Some used in rituals, others have attachments that are unknown. Reagan, along with a lot of the other dolls in the Haunted Doll collection that make up the Darkest Stories, can be seen during the Darkest Stories Haunted Doll Tours, which will be beginning again soon. And of course, coming soon, episode 6 of the Darkest Stories, and it promises to be as chilling as this one. You know, they say that the soul of a thing is defined by what it leaves behind. If that's true, Reagan isn't made of porcelain and sawdust. She's made of shattered glass, cold tea, and the scent of ozone before a storm. I've watched people handle Reagan like she was filled with nitroglycerin. Many of them have heard the stories. Now, everyone has. They talk about the accident with the gun and Allison. They call it mayhem. No, I call it hunger. Looking at her now tucked away under the care of 606 Paranormal and Stacia Underwood Gullett, you'd almost believe that she's at rest. But the air around her doesn't feel like rest. It feels like a bated breath. Like the moment before the tripwire snaps. I wonder what she thinks about in the silence. Does she savor the memory of the light fading from Allison's eyes? Or is she already calculating the structural integrity of the shelf she's sitting on? On the gatherings, we've seen her move on her own, completely away from anything and everyone else. She doesn't just inhabit a room. She colonizes it. She turns the familiar into the predatory. People that come to Stacia's home think the locks are on the door to keep people out. They're wrong. They're to keep the stillness in. Because as long as Reagan is contained, the world remains predictable. Places in the house don't creak without a footstep. The mirrors show only what's standing in front of them. But I've seen the way the dust settles differently around that doll. I've heard the faint, rhythmic thump-thump of porcelain against wood when the house is supposed to be empty. Oh, she's not finished. A doll like this doesn't just retire. She's just waiting for the wood to warp, for the lock to rust, or for someone, anyone, just curious enough to wonder why a toy needs so many chairs. Sleep well, Reagan. I'll see you when the hinges give way. For the Darkest Stories, and for Stacia Underwood Gullett, I'm Chris Slone.